Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to our 24th lecture of MTH 108 Business Math 1. Today we will start our new chapter, chapter 8, which is about mathematics of finance. What are the objectives of this chapter? Is to provide an understanding of the time value of money, to provide an understanding of the mathematics of interest computations for singly payment and annuity cash flow structures, to introduce the cost-benefit analysis and related considerations. And what are the main topics of this chapter? In this chapter mainly we will discuss about the interest and its computations, single payment computations, annuities and their future value, annuities and their present value, and cost-benefit analysis. Today we will discuss only the first two things, that is, today we will discuss the interest in detail and its computations, and about the single payment computations. If we recall our chapter 7, which was about the exponential and logarithmic functions, there we have discussed the examples of simple interest, compound interest, and we have seen that these are nothing but the exponential functions. Here we will study them in a bit more detail. Now in this chapter we shall model selected topics in finance that deal with the time value of money, such as investments, loans, and the things like this. Mainly we will study the interest rates and their effects on the value of money. Interest are not only related to money. For example, the population growth can also be characterized by the rate of growth. Since I have said that the interest functions or the compound interest or the simple interest, they are exponential functions, and we have seen in our chapter 7 about the exponential functions that population growth or decay processes are also exponential functions. So we can also define the interest for the population growth by the rate of growth, or for some decay process by the rate of decay. Now what is an interest basically? Interest is a fee which is paid for having the use of money. We pay interest on loans for having the use of bank's money. Similarly, the bank pay us interest on money invested in saving accounts because the bank has temporary access to our money. So either we pay the interest for the loans which we have taken from the bank, or it can be other way around as well, that is, the bank can also pay us the interest by using our money deposited in the savings account. The amount of money that is lent or invested is called the principal, or the principal amount. That is the main amount which we will be dealing with in the case of loan interest or in the case of savings account interest. Okay, how we calculate the interest? Once we have a principal amount, then how we calculate the interest? It is usually paid in proportion to the principal and the period of time over which the money is used. Okay, very logical that we have some fixed amount and the period of time, for example, let's say we have 100 rupees and the period of time, let's say 3 years, we have taken a loan from the bank and we say to the bank that we will return the amount in 3 years, which means that the interest will be calculated or paid on the amount which we have loaned and the duration for which we have used the amount. But interest is paid with respect to some rate or percentage of the principal amount. That is, the interest rate specifies the rate at which the interest accumulates, and this interest rate is usually stated as the percentage of the principal amount per period of time. For example, 18% per year of the principal amount invested or used by the bank, 20% quarterly, which means that 4 times a year, and similarly 13.5% per month. So period of time may vary it can be a very small period or it can be a very large period, for example calculated at the end of every year. And it is usually, this interest rate is usually the percentage of our principal amount. Now interest that is paid solely on the amount of principal is called the simple interest. Simple interest is usually associated with loans or investments which are short term in nature. We have two types of interest. One is the simple interest and other is the compound interest. The simple interest is associated with the loans or the investments which are short term in nature, and it is computed as, simple interest is computed as the principal amount multiplied by the interest rate per time period multiplied by the number of time periods. For example, if I denotes the simple interest and P denotes the principal amount invested or loaned, small I represents the interest rate per time period, let's say per year, and N represents the number of time periods, for example once per year or twice per year. Then the simple interest is calculated as the product of all the three factors, that is the principal amount, the interest rate and the number of time periods, and is given by this formula: capital I is equals to P into I into small I into N, where capital I is the simple interest, P is the principal amount, small I is the interest rate per time period, and N is the number of time periods. Now while calculating the interest I, one thing we have to be careful, that both small I, that is the interest rate, and N, that is the number of time periods, should be consistent with each other. That is, they should be expressed in same duration. For example, if interest rate is given as per year and N is the number of time periods quarterly, then first we have to rearrange our interest rate in terms of quarterly or rearrange our number of time periods annually. So both the units should be the same for the interest rate and the number of time periods. For example, a credit union has issued a 3-year loan of $5,000. Simple interest is charged at the rate of 10% per year. The principal plus interest is to be repaid at the end of the 3rd year. And we are asked to compute the interest for the 3-year period. And what amount will be repaid at the end of the 3rd year. So, how we solve it? What is the information we are provided with? We are provided with the information that a credit union has issued a 3-year loan of $5,000. So the principal P will be our $5,000. Okay. If we recall our formula, capital I, interest, is the principal times the interest rate into the number of periods per number of time periods. So P is 5,000 from the given question. Now next thing they are telling us is that simple interest is charged at the rate of 10% per year. So next information we have is the interest rate small I, which is 10% per year. Now this 10% means 0.1. Now the principal plus interest is to be repaid at the end of the 3rd year, which means that we have to refund the amount or repay the amount after 3 years with the interest on it. So the duration in which we are using this money is N is equals to 3. We are asked to compute the interest for the 3rd year period. Now we have the values of the all unknowns, P, small I and N. We will simply put these values in our formula and we obtained that the interest will be $1,500. Next, they are asking that what amount will be repaid at the end of the third year. And in between they have said that the principal plus interest is to be repaid. So the amount, if A represents capital A as the amount repaid, then this is equals to the principal P plus the interest plus I. P was given as $5,000 and the interest for this amount at the rate of 10% per year for the period of 3 years is $1,500. So after 3 years we have to return $6,500. So this is the amount we have to repay at the end of third year with the interest of 10% per year. Now this was a very simple example of the simple interest, and from this example we can easily understand that given the values of the principal, the interest rate and the number of time period, we can easily calculate the simple interest. Next we come to the compound interest. We have already studied this compound interest in our chapter 7 as the applications of exponential functions. Here we recall again what do we mean by the compound interest. In the compound interest, the interest earned each period is reinvested, that is added to the principal for purposes of computing interest for the next period. That is, we have some principal amount P, and on that principal amount we have earned some interest at the rate of I% per period. Then the interest earned is again added to the principal amount, and for the next period we obtain the interest for this added amount as well. So basically in compound interest we have interest on interest. The amount of interest computed using this procedure is called the compound interest. Okay, assume that we have deposited $8,000 in a credit union which pays interest of 8% per year, compounded quarterly. And we are asked to find the amount of interest at the end of one quarter. If I1, capital I1 denotes the amount of interest earned after one quarter, if we recall our formula, interest is equals to the principal amount into the interest rate into the number of period. Principal amount is 8,000. Interest is 8%, which is 0.08, and n is equals to compounded quarterly, which means that n is equals to 1 by 4, which is 0.25. Putting all these values in our formula, we obtained 8,000 into 0.08 into 0.25 is equals to 160. So this is the amount of interest earned after 3 months. Now, so what is our amount? Now if P2 denotes the new amount, then it is nothing but the sum of principal amount but the interest earned on it, which is 8,000 plus 160, which is 8,160. Okay, now for the next term or for the next quarter, what we have done here, we have obtained the interest of 160, we have added it to our principal amount, and for the next quarter we will obtain or earn the interest on this new amount and not on our principal amount P, which was given before. Okay, so the interest earned after second quarter I2 will be equals to P into I into n, but here we will not use our value principal amount. In fact, we will use our value of the amount in which we have added our interest of first quarter. So this will be equals to 8,160 with the same interest rate, that is 8% per year, and the number of periods per year is the quarterly, that is 0.25, and solving this we obtain 163.2. So our next amount, we may call this as 1 and this as 2. We just have renamed our indices. So the amount P2 at the end of second quarter will be equals to amount P1 plus the interest obtained I2, which is adding all these values, we obtained 8323.2. Continuing in this way, we are interested in knowing the interest earned after 1 year. So the interest earned after 1 year will be equals to P3 will be equals to P2 plus I3, that is where I3 will be calculated as P2 into 0.08 into 0.25, and similarly we will calculate P4, which is equals to $8659.46. Now if we want to calculate the simple interest after 1 year, so the simple interest in this case, I will be equals to the principal amount into the interest rate, which is 0.08, and n will be equals to 1 here, and here we obtained our value as 640, which means that in the case of simple interest after 1 year the amount will be increased by $640, and in the case of compound interest compounded quarterly the amount will be increased by $659.46, and the difference between simple and compound interest will be the increase in the increase of amount from the compound interest minus the increase of amount from the simple interest, which is approximately equals to 20 after 1 year. So there is a difference in calculating the simple interest and compound interest. In simple interest we calculate the interest after 1 period, there is no interest in between, but in compound interest we calculated the interest in between. How? By adding the interest in the principal amount and then calculating the interest on it. So in calculating the compound interest we have to be careful that what type of interest rate we are provided with and what is the number of periods of what is the value of n. In the beginning we have said that it should be noted that both I and n are consistent with each other, that is they should be expressed in same duration. So we have to be careful in calculating the compound interest that both I and n should be expressed in the same duration. If not, we have to rewrite one variable in the form of in the same duration of the other variable. From this last calculation, that is the difference between the simple and compound interest, we have seen that compound interest gives us more value at the same interest rate and at the same number of time periods as compared to the simple interest. If we want to compare these two interests graphically, first we observe that compound interest is greater than simple interest. Definitely the interest rate is considered the same and the number of periods is also considered the same. The value of an investment increases with increased frequency of compounding. What do we mean by this increased frequency of compounding? For example, if we are calculating the compound interest once per year, and if we are calculating the compound interest 4 times per year, then definitely the value of investment increases if we are calculating the compound interest 4 times per year. For example, if we have our graphs like this, and if this straight line represents our simple interest, here we have time in years, and here we have our values. Okay, if this straight line represents the simple interest, a slightly curved line represents our compound interest compounded annually compounded. Okay, this line represents, let's say, semi-annually compounded, that is compounded twice a year. This line represents quarterly compounded, and we need one more line above all these lines with continuous compounding. So we have seen from the previous calculation that compound interest is always greater than the simple interest. That is, this interest calculated annually is greater than the simple interest. The difference may be slight or may be too big. The value of an investment increases with increased frequency of compounding. For example, if we are calculating the compound interest annually, or if we are calculating the compound interest twice a year, then definitely twice a year will give us more value of investment as compared to calculated annually. Similarly, if we are calculating the compound interest 4 times a year, that is quarterly, then the amount will be increased more as compared to the interest calculated twice a year. And above all, we can see that there is a graph which represents the continuous compounding. That is, if we are using the continuous compounding, then it will give us more value of investment as compared to all other forms of interest, where continuous compounding is the compounding occurring an infinite number of times during the year. Since the compounding occurring is too often, that we call it as continuous compounding, that is occurring an infinite number of times during the year. So from here we have observed one thing, that the frequency of compounding increases the investment, increases the value of an investment. From the graph we can observe one more thing, which says that the effects of compounding of interest become more significant as the period of investment becomes longer. This thing, the first line, we can also see from the previous graphs, from the previous graph comparison, that if the time period is longer, for example, if we are interested in calculating the interest after 10 years, then definitely the value of investment will be bigger as compared to if we are calculating the interest after 3 years or 5 years or after 1 year. We plot the graphs again by, let's say, this is a graph representing, let's say, 6% interest rate, a graph representing 8% interest rate, graph representing 10% interest rate, and a graph representing 12% interest rate. Then The comparison of all these graphs, where on the x-axis we have time in years, then from the comparison of all these graphs we see that the higher the interest rate, the greater the interest earned each compounding period, and greater the rate of growth in the investment. Definitely, if the interest rate is higher, then we will earn more interest from that compounding period, and the rate of growth will be greater. From these two graph comparisons, we have concluded that interest is proportional to the principal amount and is also proportional to the number of duration, that is the time period. That is, here we have seen that if the period is after 10 years, interest is calculated after 10 years or after 5 years, there will be a great change in the interest earned. So the interest earned or the value of the investment depends on the principal value, also depends on the time period, and depends on the interest rate. If the time period is longer in case of compounded interest, then the value of investment will be greater. If the interest rate is greater in the case of compound interest, then the value of investment will be greater. That is, the value of investment is depending on the principal amount, the time period, and the interest rate. After these graphical comparisons, you have some practice questions from the section 8.1. And now we continue with our slightly new topic, but only the formulas of the previous section, as the single payment computations. Okay, suppose we have invested a sum of money and we wish to know that what will be the value of money at some time in the future. This is very normal to ask. Suppose you have owned a car, or suppose you have invested some money in your savings account and you are interested in knowing that what will be the amount of this deposit or the money invested in this account, let's say after 2 years, after 5 years, after 10 years. In knowing this, we assume that any interest is computed on compounding basis and we are not assuming the simple interest only. Whatever the interest we are earning on our value of on our money, it will be on the compounding basis. Now recall that the amount of money invested is called the principal amount, and the interest earned after some period of time is called the compound amount. Now if we are given any principal invested at the beginning of a time period, the compound amount at the end of the period is calculated as the principal amount plus the interest earned on that principal amount, where P is the principal amount in some units or dollars, I is the interest rate, per compounding period, N is the number of compounding, periods, and S is the compound amount obtained. Where a period may be any unit of time, for example, interest earned annually, quarterly, semi-annually, and so on. And again we have to be careful that both the units or both the parameters I and n should be defined for the same period of time. Now how can we obtain our compound amount formula if we are provided these few informations, that the compound amount is equals to the sum of the principal amount times the interest multiplied by the principal amount. Using this formula, how can we write our compound amount formula generally? If P is the principal and I is the interest rate per compounding period, then compound amount after one period will be equals to P plus interest into principal amount. Okay, and we can rewrite it as by taking the P common. Now compound amount after two periods will be obtained as compound amount after one period, that is P into 1 plus I plus interest earned during the second period. During the second period on this amount, that is plus interest earned during the second period. And simplifying this, we obtained P into 1 plus I taking as common. We are left with 1 plus I, and we obtained P into 1 plus I whole square. So this is the compound amount after two periods of time, that is the compound amount after one period, okay, plus the interest earned during the second period, that is the interest earned on this amount. And simplifying, we obtained that the compound amount after 2 years is this amount. Okay, continuing in this way, we can also calculate the compound amount after 3 periods, which is simply as compound amount after 2 periods, which was 2 into 1 plus I square plus the interest earned during the third period, that is the interest earned on this amount into 1 plus I square. Now simplifying, we obtained, taking P into 1 plus I square common, we are left with 1 plus I, and simplifying, we obtained P into 1 plus I cube. We have already calculated these formulas when we were looking at the applications of exponential functions in our chapter 7. Okay, now we have calculated the compound amount after 3 periods. Continuing in this way, we can also calculate our compound amount formula after n periods, which will be S denotes the compound amount, which will be the principal amount. So compound amount after 3 periods, just for the sake of understanding, is the principal amount into 1 plus I and the same number after the same number of periods. Okay, if just for the sake of understanding, after n periods, if Sn denotes the compound amount, then P into 1 plus I, and there should be some exponent on 1 plus I, which is same as this n after the n periods. So this is our formula known as the compound amount formula to the power n, calculating the compound amount after n periods. And generally we say it as, if an amount of money P earns interest compounded at the rate of I% per period, it will grow after n periods to the compound amount S. That is, if an amount, or we may write our formula here again as P into 1 plus I to the power n, that if an amount of money P earns interest compounded at the rate of I% per period, it will grow after n periods to the compound amount s. Now this s, compound amount, is an exponential function of the number of compounding periods n, or we may simply write it as s is equals to a function of n. For example, this is our time scale and this is our principal amount P. Okay, and after n periods of time we are here, this is our S, known as the compound amount. And after n periods we have reached from P to S by using the formula P into 1 plus I to the power n, where I is the interest rate per period. Now let's solve some examples. Suppose that $1,000 is invested in a savings bank which earns interest at the rate of 8% per year compounded annually. If all interest is left in the account, what will the account balance be after 10 years? Okay. We are asked to find the value of S. To find the value of S, we need the information about the principal amount, the interest rate, and the number of compounding periods. Okay. So if we read our statement or the given data carefully, we say that $1,000 are invested, so our principal amount is 1,000 in a savings bank which earns interest at the rate of 8% per year compounded annually. So I is equals to 0.08 and compounded annually, so the compound interest is obtained after each year. If all the interest is left in the account, what will the account balance be after 10 years? So after 10 years basically represents our number of compounding period, which is 10. Putting these values in our formula, we obtained 1 plus 0.08 to the power 10, which is equals to 1000 into 1.08 to the power 10, and this exponent can be calculated by using the calculator. Multiplying by 1000, we obtain 1000 into 2.158 and we obtained 2158.9. So this is the amount we will have after 10 years at the rate of 8% per year compounded annually, provided that our principal amount was $1,000, or our compound amount or the increase in the value of investment will be 2158.9 minus our principal value, which will be equals to 1158.9. So this much is the increase in our value after 10 years. So from having the information about the value of the principal amount, the interest rate, and the number of compounding periods, we can easily calculate the compound amount after some duration of time. Let's have a look at one more example. A long-term investment of 2,50,000 has been made by a small company. The interest rate is 12% per year and interest is compounded quarterly. If all interest is reinvested at the same rate, what will the value of the investment be after 8 years? Okay, we have to read our question again, because throughout in calculating the compound interest we are emphasizing that our interest rate I and the number of compounding periods n should be of same duration. So here we are given our interest rate I, which is 12% per year, and the interest is compounded quarterly, which means that first we have to rewrite our interest rate in terms of per year. Now I is equals to 12% per year compounded quarterly. So this is the interest rate given after 3 months, and we are interested in knowing the interest rate after 1 year. So first we have to calculate our interest rate with respect to per year. In this case, our interest rate will be equals to the annual interest rate divided by the number of compounding periods. Okay, which means that we'll have 0.12 divided by 4, which is equals to 0.03. So this is our interest rate calculated quarterly. Now we proceed further. The number of compounding periods over 8-year period, that is n, will be equals to what? N will be equals to 8, or n will be equals to 4. No, we are given that the interest is compounded quarterly, and what will be the value of the investment after 8 years? So the number of compounding periods over 8-year period will be equals to, correct, and it will be equals to 8 into 4, which is 32. Now we put these values in our formula, which is S is equals to P. The principal amount is 2,50,000, and 1 plus I is equals to 0.03 to the power n, which is now 32. Simplifying this, we obtained is equals to 1.03 to the power 32. This can be calculated by using the calculator. We obtained 2.575, and it is 643,770, 6,43,770 after 8 years at the interest rate of 12% compounded quarterly. So what will the value of investment be after 8 years? So after 8 years, this will be the value of the investment, and the interest which we have earned in 8 years will be equals to the compound amount minus the principal amount, which is equals to 3,93,770. So this much amount we have earned after 8 years, when the principal amount was 2,50,000 at the interest rate of 12% calculated quarterly. Now we have seen enough examples of the compound interest and how we can find the compound interest provided the information of the principal amount, the interest rate, and the number of compounding periods is given. If the number of compounding periods is not given in the same duration as that of the interest rate, then we will rewrite our one parameter in terms of the other duration and put these values in our formula, and simplify to find the compound amount. Also, we can also find the interest earned, that is the difference of the compound amount to the principal amount. Now our compound amount formula, which is S is equals to P into 1 plus I to the power n, is an equation involving 4 variables, that is the compound amount, the principal amount, the interest rate, and the number of compounding periods per duration. Now, if we know the values of, so far what we have done, we were provided with the values of P, I, and N. And using these 3 values, we have calculated the value of our compound amount S. If we know the values of any 3 variables or any 3 parameters in our formula, then we can easily find the 4th parameter. For example, we can rewrite our formula as P is equals to S over 1 plus I to the power n, simply dividing both sides by this exponent term 1 plus I to the power n. Or we can also write it as S multiplied by the reciprocal of 1 plus I to the power n. Okay, we have just rewritten our formula, and now if we write our formula in this form, the P on the left side of our equation or the formula denotes the present value of the compound amount, that is the principal amount invested, which gives us the compound amount S at some interest rate I, compounded at the number of compounding periods n. So we can rewrite our compound amount formula in terms of P, where P will be now the present value. We have said that knowing the values of any 3 of the parameters, we can find the value of the 4th parameter, which means that now we will be provided with the values of the compound amount S, the interest rate I, and the number of compounding periods n. And using these 3 values, we will find our present value, which should be invested to obtain the compound amount S at the rate of I increase rate and the number of compounding periods n. For example, we are asked that how much amount of money should be invested at the rate of 10% per year compounded quarterly if the compound amount is 20,000 after 10 years. What information we have? First we will rewrite our formula S over 1 plus I to the power n. Okay. Now, S is given as 20,000, that is the compound amount is 20,000 after 10 years, so n should be equals to 10. We have to check this. First we calculate our interest rate. The interest rate I is given as 10%, which is 0.1 per year compounded quarterly, which means that our interest rate will be equals to 0.1 divided by 4 or 0.1 into 0.25, and our interest rate I will be equals to 0.025, which means that our value of n will not be equals to 10. In fact, our value of n will be equals to after 10 years, but in each 1 year we calculate the compound interest 4 times. So after 10 years, the total number of times we have calculated the compound interest will be equals to 4 into 10, which will be equals to 40. Now we have all the values in our required form, that is the values of the parameters I and n are in the same duration. We can simply put these values in our formula. 20,000 divided by 1.025 to the power 40, and calculating this we obtained 20,000 divided by 2.685, and simplifying we obtain $7,448.62. So this is the amount, principal amount or the present value P, which should be invested to give us the compound amount 20,000 after 10 years at the rate of 10% per year compounded quarterly. That is, if we look at our time scale, then this is the principal amount or present value, which is 7,448, and after the duration of 10 years with the interest rate of 0.025, which is equals to 10% per year compounded quarterly, we have our compound amount S as 20,000. So knowing the values of the compound amount, interest rate and the number of compounding periods, we can easily find that what amount should be invested, which will give us the required compound amount after some duration of time with the interest rate I per year. Now let's have a look at some other applications. If the parameters I and N, that is the interest rate and the number of compounding periods, are unknown, and we are interested in knowing how long will it take to double the principal amount, then that is, we are interested in knowing that the compound amount S will be equals to 2 times the principal amount, or S over P is equals to 2. And we are interested in knowing the value of N, that is how long will it take to double the principal amount. In this case, we are provided with the compound amount in terms of the principal amount, and we are also provided, let's say, the rate, which is 10% per year compounded quarterly. Then we are provided with 3 parameters, that is the compound amount, the principal amount and the interest rate. So in this case, our interest rate is 0.1 and compounded quarterly, so 0.1 divided by 4, which is equals to 0.025. If we look at our formula, which is S is equals to P into 1 plus I to the power N, then the compound amount which we want is sure, that is, we want the double of our principal amount. So S is nothing but 2P is equals to the principal amount into 1 plus the interest rate to the power N. Here we don't know the exact value of the principal amount, but by looking at our equation, we can, since the principal amount will be a non-zero positive value, we can cancel it out, or dividing our both the equations by P, we are left with 2 is equals to 1 plus I to the power N. And we also know the value of I, which means that 2 is equals to 1.025 to the power N. So by putting all the values and all the information, we are left with our one parameter N, that is the time period which is required to double the amount at some particular interest rate. We can easily solve this equation because this is the exponent equation, and by taking the log on both sides, the natural log we will prefer. Natural log of 2 will be equals to N into natural log of 1.025, and the number N can be calculated as log of 2 divided by log of 1.025. And solving this, we obtained that N is equals to approximately equals to 28, which means that since the compound interest is obtained 4 times a year, so how many years we are interested in knowing? That is, we have to divide this value of N by 4, which is 28 by 4. So approximately after 7 years, our principal amount will be doubled at the interest rate of 10% per year, calculated quarterly. So by knowing the values of any of the two unknowns, and knowing the two unknowns here, we know the value of our interest rate I, and we know the value of our unknown compound amount, parameter compound amount in terms of principal amount. So by using these two values in our given formula, we can simplify our equation in terms of the one unknown only, which is n, and we have obtained the number of compounding periods, which is 28. But since the interest is given 4 times a year, so the number of years will be n divided by 4, which is approximately 7 years are required to double our principal amount. Let's have a look at one more example. This says that a person wishes to invest $10,000 and wants the investment to grow to 20,000 over the next 10 years. That is, here we are given the principal amount and the compound amount as some fixed values. But by looking at the values, we can find the relation between the compound amount and the principal amount. We are asked that at what annual interest rate the required amount is obtained, that is the amount $20,000 is obtained, assuming annual compounding. So in this example, we are provided with with 3 parameters, that is S, the compound amount, P, the principal amount, and N, the number of compounding periods. And we are asked to find the interest rate I by using the same compound amount formula. Okay. Here our P is equals to 10,000 and our S is equals to 20,000. Either we will put these values in our formula, or by looking at them we see that actually our compound amount is the double of the principal amount. Okay. Now, since the compounding is calculated annually, which means that our value of n will be equals to, since we are obtaining the compound interest once per year and the total duration is 10 years, which means that the value of n will be equals to 10 here. So by putting the values in our formula, we obtained 2p is equals to p into 1 plus I to the power n. Simplifying, we obtained 2 is equals to 1 plus I to the power 10, and then taking the log on both sides, that is log of 2 is equals to 10 times log of 1 plus I. Log of 2 divided by 10 is log of 1 plus I. And calculating this, and by taking the anti-logs, we obtained that I is approximately equals to 7%, which means that at the interest rate of 7% per year, the principal amount of $10,000 will be double to the compound amount $20,000 after 10 years. So by using our compound amount formula, we can obtain the value of the 4th parameter provided the values of the other 3 parameters are known. For example, we can find the present value or the principal value, or we can find the interest rate, or we can find the number of compounding periods if the other 3 informations are given. Next, we look at the effective interest rates. The stated annual rate is usually called as the nominal rate. But when compounding is done more frequently than annually, then it is called the effective annual interest rate. How we can calculate this effective annual interest rate? If small r denotes the effective annual interest rate. And I denotes the nominal annual interest rate. And M is the number of compounding periods per year. The number of compounding periods per year. Then the equivalence between the two rates, that is the nominal annual interest rate and the effective annual interest rate, suggests that if a principal P is invested for n years, the two compound amounts would be the same, or we can write as P into 1 plus R to the power n will be equals to P into 1 plus I over M to the power n into M. Now dividing both sides by P, we obtain 1 plus R to the power n is 1 plus I over M to the power n M. Taking the nth root on both sides, dividing both sides by P, taking the nth root, we obtained 1 plus R is equals to 1 plus I over M to the power M, and R is equals to 1 plus I over M to the power M minus 1. So by knowing the nominal annual interest rate and the number of compounding periods per year, we can easily calculate our effective annual interest rate. How? Let's have a look at one example. For example, the nominal interest rate is 12% per year given quarterly. If we look at our formula, we only need to know the value of the nominal annual interest rate I and the number of compounding periods per year, which is M. We don't need to know the value of the principal amount P. So if we are given that the nominal interest rate is 12% per year compounded quarterly, which means that our I is equals to 0.12 and our M compounded quarterly means 4 times a year is equals to 4. Then by putting these values in our formula, we obtain R is equals to 1 plus I divided by M whole to the power M minus 1, which is 1.1 plus 0.03 to the power 4 minus 1. We can solve this by using the calculator, this exponent, and we obtain which is equals to 1.12551 minus 1. So our effective annual interest rate is 0.12551. That is, the effective annual interest rate is 12.55% per year. So by knowing the nominal annual interest rate and the number of compounding periods per year, we can easily find the effective annual interest rate, which is definitely slightly greater than our nominal interest rate. Now we have some practice questions from the section 8.2, and with this we end our today's lecture. So what we have studied today, we have studied the definition of interest and what do we mean by the principal and the interest rate. Also we have seen that what is the simple interest and what is the compound interest and how we can calculate them. And we have seen the graphical comparison of the simple interest and the compound interest. Then we have seen the single payment computations, the compound amount formula, which we have already obtained in the examples of exponential function in chapter 7, and some examples to solve the compound amount. Using this compound amount formula, we have obtained the present value provided the values of the other three parameters, that is the compound amount, the interest rate, and the number of compounding periods are given. In the other applications of compound amount formula, we have seen that if we are given the values of our compound amount in terms of principal amount and the interest rate, then we can find the value of n, that is the number of compounding periods, and then the time required to double our amount, principal amount, simply to triple our principal amount. Also, we have seen that if we are given the number of compounding periods, the principal amount and the compound amount, then we can find the required interest rate. In the end, we have seen the effective interest rates and their relation with the nominal interest rates. With this, we end our today's lecture. In our next lecture, we will discuss about the annuities of the present value and annuities of the future value. With this, Allah Hafiz students.